and aesthetic dermatology in Atlanta, Columbus, Charleston, and is thrilled to be back in Athens to continue her career. With years of experience, Laura Francis focuses on a full face approach to achieve a natural result. Care is taken to customize every treatment to the individual patient, and she loves nothing more than helping patients achieve their aesthetic goals. All right, Brookes Vaughn. Brookes is a board-certified women's health nurse practitioner with 10 years of experience in obstetrics and gynecological care. She received her Bachelor's of Science from the University of Georgia and her graduate degree in women's health nurse practitioner from Vanderbilt University. After graduate school, Brookes spent the first part of her career training under industry-leading physicians and practicing medicine at the largest, highest-ranked OBGYN center in Charlotte, prior to moving home and continuing her career here in Athens. She currently provides gynecological care right across the street at the Ashford Center, where she not only provides general gynecological care, but also specializes in endometrial ablation, as well as helping women address problem periods, PMS, hormonal imbalances, menstrual migraines, fertility concerns, perimenopause, menopause, and much more. Brookes, her husband Schuler, and their daughter Walker Ann live just outside of Athens in Watkinsville. She is also the founder of the Women's Health Company, an online platform that exists to equip women to live healthy, whole, and holy lives. And Caroline Ward. Caroline is the mother of 3 teenagers, wife to Kelly Ward. Caroline is owner and president of TransFit Athens. TransFit is short for Transformational Fitness. TransFit Athens and Oconee are full-service personal training studios for women. She is grateful to serve with an amazing team of encouraging women. Caroline's passion for health and fitness stemmed from being a member of the University of Georgia gymnastics team from 1996 to 2000 and competing on 2 national championship teams in 1998 and 99. Caroline graduated from UGA with an accounting degree and master's in public administration. She found her true calling 13 years ago to lead women to transform their lives. Currently, she is a certified personal trainer, nutrition consultant, running coach, and yoga instructor for UGA football and gymnastics teams. Her passion is to change lives by inspiring women to transform not only their bodies, but their minds and their spirits as well, to live transformed. Now, Miss Lisa Patton.
All right, y'all. Well, thank you everyone for coming to my birthday lunch. I appreciate it. So I'm going to get this started with a couple questions, and we're going to start with asking Brookes a question that we've gotten from you guys, because some of you guys sent us some questions. And so, Brookes, our first question is, how do I know I'm in perimenopause?
Great question. Loaded question.
Do you want
Sure. So let me explain what the term actually means first. So meno means monthly, pause means stop. Menopause means to stop the monthly. Peri means around. So menopause first means that a woman, it's kind of misleading because it says stop the monthly in the term. However, we know that a number of things can stop a period. A hysterectomy, even if the ovaries remain, an ablation, which is what we do thousands of next door, an IUD. So there are several things that can stop a woman's period without putting her into actual menopause. So menopause really means that a woman's ovaries have, kicked the can and they stop producing estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and DHEA. If a woman hasn't had any of those things, and she has gone an entire year, 12 months without a period, she is considered postmenopausal. So perimenopause, meaning around menopause, can happen. Women can start to experience symptoms of perimenopause 10 to 15 years prior to ovaries completely biting the dust. So we kind of, as far as noticing perimenopause, is a diagnosis of exclusion. A lot of the symptoms include irregular periods, heavier periods, more severe mood fluctuations, a decrease in energy, sometimes weight gain, particularly around the middle. That's probably one of the number one complaints of peri and postmenopause. Several things. So we rule out other things first, like thyroid disorder, nutrient deficiencies. Sometimes perimenopause can mimic autoimmune issues as well. So we rule those things out. Sometimes hormone testing has a little bit of value. It can tell me if a woman is in menopause, if she's not having periods. But estrogen levels fluctuate so much in perimenopause because what's happening is before the ovaries completely bite the dust, it's almost like a car. Think about a car that's running out of gas. You think about a car that it'll kind of peter forward and then stop, and then go forward and then stop. If we look at hormone levels every single day in perimenopause, what we start to see is instead of a kind of natural rise and fall, we can start to see more peaks and valleys. So women just feel that a lot more. So we can tell a woman is in perimenopause based on ruling out other things, symptoms, and age, and hormone testing can give us a little bit of information as well.
Thank you. I do have another question. This question is for Caroline. I've always heard to limit my sodium intake for high blood pressure, which runs in my family. Lately, I'm hearing a lot about the importance of drinking electrolytes like Noon, LMNT, etc., which these have magnesium, potassium, and sodium. So I'm confused about how to be healthy in this area. Can you please explain?
Great question. So electrolytes are minerals that are in our body, and electrolytes are made up of many minerals, such not only sodium. I think a lot of times we think of electrolytes because that's the thing that's highlighted on a lot of packaging is like it says real salt electrolytes. But electrolytes are combined of magnesium, potassium, chloride, and calcium. So a proper electrolyte that would not increase your blood pressure would be some electrolytes that don't have added sugars in them, such as, we try not to recommend just the Gatorades, just a strict Gatorade. There are these great, I brought some things to just show if anybody wants to see them later. But electrolytes are so important for our bodies, and our sodium level is very important. And if you're doing a low carb diet, you might be pulling back on sodium without even knowing it. And that's why I think a lot of people in the diet world or just the fitness world, a lot of people you might hear trying to go more low carbohydrate. Well, when you go low carbohydrate, a lot of times they're pulling sodium out. But to put good types of sodium back in, the real types of good sodium, such as one of the electrolyte drinks that is a mix of potassium plus magnesium. And, if you're getting a balanced diet, Leah, our nutritionist would agree with me on this, I'm sure. Spinach is one of the best forms of electrolytes. Avocados is one of the best forms of electrolytes. So, and watercress is another really great form of electrolytes. So if you're eating a balanced diet with whole foods, then you should be getting the proper amount of electrolytes. Now, we lose a lot of electrolytes when we sweat, when we go to the bathroom. So a lot of the times we're losing a lot of electrolytes. So we do need to replenish them. So if you are working out and sweating, that's when you would need to supplement with some other type of electrolyte that I've brought. But there's so many different kinds on the market now. I would just suggest if you are looking to supplement with some type of electrolyte and maybe some of the feelings that you're feeling if you are dehydrated, headaches, muscle cramps, joint pain. I have a lot of clients that have started taking a regular electrolyte and they've had reduced joint pain. So that's been one real benefit of adding in electrolytes into your daily nutrition plan. So thank you guys.
All right, so my next question is for Kaylan and Lauren Francis. What is the difference between Botox and filler, and can it be done tastefully?
Yes. I'll pre-apologize for my voice and we've been losing it over the last week. But so the question was, what is the difference between Botox and filler, and can it be done tastefully? So it's, they're very different products. Botox is in a class of what I like to call neuromodulators. And all they do is relax muscles. And you can manipulate topographical features of the face, like where the eyebrow sits, or the corner of the mouth, or how the jawline lies, by injecting Botox, because of other muscles in the face are still active and can hold those topographical features. So all Botox does, or Dysport, or Jeuveau, Daxify, there's a lot of different ones on the market, but all they do is relax muscles. And really, the end result depends on where it's placed. Filler is an actual gel substance, is what most people consider when they say filler. Most of them are going to be an HA filler, and it's carried in a gel material. They are going to either add structure or volume in an area. And depending on the type of filler that you choose, or again, the placement of that filler, it can provide different results.
Yeah, that's it. Well, and I think, yeah, like, so what we might use, like in a lip that, let's say for a mature patient that might be in their 70s, it's going to be really, really different from maybe what we might do for somebody that is actually looking to add a little bit of volume, or, you know, balance some of their facial features. So what we might put in a cheek to add, or scaffold if you want to, or create more definition, to be much different most of the time than what we would do in the mouth or around the mouth.
More structure, right?
Yeah, and there's some other things that exist in the market that we can go to that aren't a particular filler, but that can help us improve collagen production. And yeah, and there's a biostimulator on the market called Sculptra. It's been around for a really long time. It was originally indicated for the AIDS HIV population for mid-phase volleyball, but has had its cosmetic use for many years now. And that's a way to where, you know, your own body is kind of creating some of those volume changes and improvements in the skin quality. So that's what we kind of want to have. And, you know, I think it's also, you know, experience and our personal aesthetic. I think ultimately is to kind of create the most natural appearance that we can for our patients and help remain them looking true to yourself. And keeping in mind what your goals are.
Following anatomy and knowing the progression of aging and how that affects the way you look over time, and how to reverse that instead of just addressing a symptom of the problem versus the actual.
Right,
issue.
like if someone comes in, for example, no, we're good. Are you okay with that? Yeah. So one of the things too is, like, if we have a younger patient, for example, that's in her 20s or 25, maybe even 30, coming in and they want to add the volume to their lip, and we notice that there's certain features maybe that they were born with, that they may have like a recessed chin, you know, so we want to at least point those things out to them, and just what that may do, just kind of magnifies some of those other things that maybe we might recognize, or makes them maybe look unnatural to other people. Just try to create proportion, you know, and balance in facial features.
Okay, great. So that's enough questions for me for right now, but I want to hear from you guys. So if you guys have a question, and I'll leave the mic up with the ladies, if y'all will just raise your hand, I'll point you out, and can ask Brookes, Laura Francis, or Kaylan or Caroline if you have any specific questions. We'd love to hear one. Yes, fine.
I've dealt with a lot of skin cancers, and I hear about blue light, chemical bills, all those things. Can you tell me, related to skin cancer and just blue light, chemical bill, that type of stuff?
And you're saying more for aesthetic reasons or prevention of pre-cancer or cancerous lesions? So,
Well, cancer is surgery, you know, but as far as preventive, like if you have a lot of age spots, you know, just I'm looking for cancer and for cosmetic.
so over time with sun exposure and aging, we can certainly get spots on our face, and there are many different types. There can be precancerous lesions like actinic keratosis. There can be lentigos, which are little areas of pigment. I'm sure you all are familiar with this. There could be ephelids or just freckles that can, there are little spots in the skin that can be seborrheic keratoses. There's many different things that people would call spots. And with that, there are many different treatments that we would utilize to treat those. And I think your question specifically was talking about precancerous lesions, how to treat that or prevent cancer, but also for cosmetic purposes. And anytime you have a precancerous lesion on the face and you have a spot, it's going to be less cosmetic and pleasing, as they may mind. The treatments for that, blue light you were referring to, chemical peels you were referring to, I guess that's really going to depend on the amount that you have and if there's an actual cancerous lesion there or not. And sometimes it can take multiple treatments. So let's say you had an actinic keratosis, which is a precancer lesion. You had lentiginous. The blue light's not going to do as much for lentigo or seborrheic keratosis, but maybe be a laser for that, or a laser may not do as much for the actinic keratosis. So sometimes it's a combination treatment. You have anything to add?
I would just say, yeah, like, so we both came from a really heavy derm background, but we don't practice, treating actinic keratosis and those things. We're very good at recognizing them. But like our best patients, I would say, have their dermatology or dermatology PA seeing them regularly, and then, kind of we can help like piggyback, certainly for like the ADHD property. And then there's also a lot of things that we're doing for ADHD that are also beneficial. I think we're going to encourage you to have those daily things that are going to help kind of both. But I think in the ideal world, we kind of need kind of both halves. Yeah. So I hope we answer the question right.
Can you talk about the anti-aging things that you recommend?
Sure.
The day.
Yeah. So I think that how we both agree, just having like your foundation, like it kind of needs to be what you do every single day, and for different patients that can be different. But I would say we probably both agree one of the biggest things that needs to be a good sunscreen and whatever you use. Yeah, and it's a good skincare regimen. So I think that's kind of the biggest thing.
I mean, I totally agree with that. So there are different approaches to skincare, obviously, and every single person in this room would be a little bit different. And I think another thing to add and note is there is not one skincare regimen that's going to be right for you for your whole life. So that's going to change the same way exercise will. If you did one thing or one product, that's not going to get you the results that you want. If you only ran, you do not have any muscle. So you try to cross-train, for lack of better words, with your skincare as well.
And our goals can change. We might approach it initially this way, or if you have a really dry, sensitive skin type, there's some things that we can do to help kind of stimulate the skin and hydration, and also improve your skin barrier before we start growing some really effective anti-aging, probably a little bit more irritating things to them.
Vera, just real quick, I just want to add, when Laura Francis said hydration, just that kind of couples up with the dehydration question and that about electrolytes, and that wasn't the only question that I got. But just first assessing, I know Brookes would probably talk about the importance of hydration, and Laura Francis and Kaylan will too, when they look at your face, they can tell if you're hydrated properly or not by looking at your face. And that's just with the very foundational. Go ahead, drink up, everyone. That's just one of the very basic, you say, what is something I could do for my daily routine? Well, just one, knowing how much water you're drinking every day is a foundational thing. I think we often say, hey, am I there on the baseline for that? Not only for, my body, but for my skincare. So.
One more thing to that is also, Brookes and I were actually talking about this last night, but Laura Francis would probably agree when we have someone come into our office, I can almost immediately tell if someone is having changes in their hormones or lower estrogen, just the way their skin can appear, the texture. So that can be another sign, and I'm sure some of the people who are my patients would know that if I'm looking at their skin and they're talking about a certain problem they're wanting to address, I will a lot of times say, well, we might need to also check your hormones and actually send them over to Brookes and say, you know, this might be something that we need to address. It might be deeper than what we can address with creams.
Sarah?
That was a great segue.
I don't need the answers, I'm a proud patient of Brookes. I'm a client patient of everyone's. But for those of us who think we may, I know you said blood work is not solely indicative of hormone imbalance because there's more a snapshot of a time period. But experiencing the symptoms that you're talking about may be in that perimenopausal period. Like, what can we be doing to help balance the hormone and mitigate some of these symptoms on our own or through the practice?
Great question. So there is, I will say, if someone comes in and is symptomatic, I'm very quick to draw blood to check a number of things. I sort of do I call it a holistic, we call it an executive panel at our office, but we look at everything. We look at your blood count, your liver and kidney function, which interestingly enough, the thyroid has a lot to do with your liver function. So we look at kind of all of it. We picture a whole thyroid panel. We look at vitamin B12 and folate and vitamin D levels, and but also hormones. I do oftentimes still like to get a snapshot of hormones because I can see sometimes some clues, particularly testosterone. I'm sure I see several familiar faces. You know, I like to check testosterone because it is one of the first hormones to go in perimenopause and menopause. And the reason why is I love analogies, but the ovaries produce estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and DHEA, which is a precursor to those hormones. And when the ovaries are starting to reach their expiration date, they are trying to preserve your fertility and your reproduction. And so estrogen, and then when you ovulate, progesterone is key for fertility. So testosterone is sort of like the accessory. It's like the earrings to the outfit. It's good to have. We like it, but it's not necessary to fertility. So the ovaries are like, stop producing testosterone so that we can do what we were made to do. And so usually the first thing that's consistently low is testosterone. And usually the first symptoms of that are low energy. Oftentimes it's a slowed metabolism, decreased libido, and brain fog. Those are kind of the primary symptoms of lower testosterone. It can come with estrogen as well, but to answer your question, you kind of need an arsenal. It's a combination of things. Nutrition, exercise, or I recommend that to everybody, which is kind of interesting because we're all so intertwined here, but those are kind of the key things. Supplementation, there can be, depending on the patient, depending on blood work, depending on lifestyle factors, depending on nutrition, there are certain recommendations regarding supplements that I love. And then hormone replacement therapy can play a big role as well for the right patient. And we do a combination of different things with hormone replacement therapy to sort of mitigate. So with perimenopause, especially because of those rises and falls, a lot of times women think that supplementing with hormones or hormone replacement therapy only comes when you are considered postmenopausal. But it really, the majority of women who are the most symptomatic are not necessarily yet postmenopausal. They are in that peri range from 35 to 55, which captures a lot of us in this room. But so sometimes with hormone replacement therapy, we're not shutting down your ovaries. We're not shutting things down. We're just supplementing to where we're preventing the dips, and we're just kind of helping mitigate some of those steep rises and falls. So I would say it is a combination. If y'all are on Instagram, there is a physician that I really like. Her name is Dr. Mary Claire Haber. I'm sure I've told several of you about her, but her account is called the Galveston Diet, and she is a perimenopausal and menopausal specialist, and she gives some excellent tools on exercise, nutrition, supplements, and hormone replacement therapy. So, sorry, that was a long answer.
No, it's a great answer. I guess it's kind of a current question, but, if I were exposed now, we'll talk about like belly weight. What are the best things from an exercise perspective? Like, do I need to increase? And like, how do you prevent that? I guess is what is it? Okay, we'll start that. Yes, perfect.
So Kelly's question was about belly fat, or just, increased area around your midline. And we always say, and we know in here, and you've probably heard this before, but abs are made in the kitchen. So what you are putting in your body is so important to your midsection. Very, very important. And no, I wouldn't say increase exercise. I would say let's become aware of your exercise. A lot of people think they're exercising maybe for 30 or 45 minutes, but maybe it's only 20 or 25 minutes. And I'd say the same thing if you were to go to counseling, any type of counseling, they'd ask you like, well, let's look at what you're eating. Let's be aware of what you're eating and what you're putting in your body. So I think first and foremost, you have to be fully aware of how much you're exercising and what exercise. Most exercises that you do are going to be abdominal exercises, squats, deadlifts. You don't always have to do, we never do sit-ups in here. We do a lot of planking, but every exercise that we do in here, we like to say is a deep core or ab exercise. But on that same note, and you mentioned this too, but a few supplements that have been researched that are like the 4 main supplements that actually work. I had some questions in my Instagram about, I've heard about this and I've heard about this, and what do you think about this supplement? The 4 supplements that actually are tried and true, which could help with hormones and all the things. Vitamin D, like 1, check your vitamin D. Are you getting in the recommended or more so the amount of vitamin D? 2, there's a huge, this is true research, creatine, even for women in small amounts, helps to build muscle and brain growth. 3, caffeine, tried and true, true supplement there. And the last one is protein. So when we're talking about belly fat and, how can I'd say 1, let's just be aware of how much you're exercising. And 2, let's take a look at your diet and be proactive on how much protein you're actually getting. That's really, really important. And assessing these things, then we can then go into, I think it's important to know what you're actually doing before you can assess.
Yeah, I mean, just to piggyback off of that, I think that was very good, very informative. Just to piggyback off of what Caroline said, I think looking at from a holistic standpoint, your sleep quality is huge. And so making sure that there's nothing that's mitigating you getting or causing an issue with you getting good sleep. Sometimes it could be, what you're eating or drinking right before bed. It could be screen time right before bed. It could be your estrogen levels being low, which can play a huge role in insomnia. It could be a thyroid issue. So I like to look at that and make sure that we're getting good quality sleep, because sleep is how your body repairs itself. And so additional supplements that can really help are magnesium, specifically magnesium glycinate for sleep. Sometimes depending on the person, if women are noticing more bloating and more issues with digestion, magnesium citrate can be really good to help kind of with the bloating and with digestion. Fiber is excellent as well to help with digestion. And then I would say too, it just really kind of depends as far as belly fat. exercise, the right kind of exercise. I have found that a lot of times, especially I have a 1-year-old, and so I realized about, probably 6 months postpartum that I was exercising, but I wasn't doing it correctly. Like I have a bike and I was doing all sorts of things and I wasn't doing it correctly. My form was not correct. And so instead of seeing the results that I wanted, especially in my midsection, I was actually making it worse. I was opening my transverse abdominis muscle, and so it was making me feel like I had more bloating and more of a effect in my midsection. So seeing like here where they can train you on how to engage your core properly, seeing a pelvic floor physical therapist is excellent because they can teach you how to engage your core so that when you are exercising, you're not making other things worse by the type of exercise. And yes, I am a big proponent too of, in combination with all of those things, the right type of hormone replacement therapy or nutrition to help. Soy gets a really bad rap. Leah and I have talked about this. It gets a bad rap, but it is a phytoestrogen, which means it is a plant-based. It's a weaker form of estrogen versus, like, say you're taking an estradiol supplement, but it's a plant-based form of estrogen. And soy in our country is extremely processed, and so that's where the issue comes in with a lot of the health concerns that we're seeing. Is it's just got, for instance, silk it's soy milk, but if you look at the ingredients, it's got all kinds of other additives, and those additives are where I believe we see the issue. And so, for instance, soy, that is soy and water. Like soy, they make several brands. Trader Joe's has a soy milk that's literally soy, organic soy and water. Excellent for hormones. In a adequate amount, but not overdoing it. So things like that, healthy fats, all that can be really good.
Can I just add something to that? I'm sorry. Yeah. I see this a lot, and it's the amount of alcohol that people drink. If you're drinking alcohol at night, your sleep's going to be interrupted, your skin's going to be dehydrated, you're not going to lose that belly fat.
Yes, exactly. So that's you're right. And alcohol actually is an endocrine disruptor. And so it's a false estrogen in our system. It can actually confuse the system and cause an issue. So, I would say pay attention to that, especially at bedtime.
For postmenopausal women, do you recommend bioidentical hormones or any kind of?
Sure, I do. Depending on, for postmenopausal women, do I recommend bioidentical hormones? So bioidentical hormones are identical on a cellular level to what your ovaries used to make, and they are derived from plants, which I'm a big fan of. There are, oddly enough, you would think that, because it's more in the holistic realm, there's not a lot of scientific money to back it. But there are actually several FDA approved versions of bioidentical hormones, certain patches, certain progesterone pills. So I do, for the right person, there's a lot of misconception about hormone replacement therapy these days. You think there was, last lunch and learn, I kind of talked a little bit about this, and I'll just share this briefly, but back in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was a big study called the Women's Health Initiative, and it was halted because they saw a slight increased risk of breast cancer. And the headlines all over the world were hormone replacement therapy increases the risk of breast cancer. And so everybody got scared to death of hormone replacement therapy. Well, 2 years later, they went back and they reassessed that study because the researchers said, hey, wait a minute, there were women who were on this that had a lower risk, and there were some other things. So let's dive deeper. And what they found was women who had had a hysterectomy. If you had a hysterectomy, you don't need progesterone. You only need estrogen, because the progesterone just protects your uterine lining from getting thick from the estrogen. But women who had hysterectomy who were just using estradiol, it actually decreased their risk of breast cancer. Women who had a uterus who were on synthetic progesterone with estradiol had a slight increased risk of breast cancer. But women who were on a bioidentical form of progesterone, Prometrium is the brand that we love, or micronized progesterone is the generic, which is just as great. There was no increased risk of breast cancer compared to the general population. And so, there are a lot of other benefits: protecting your bones, protecting your heart, protecting your brain from hormone replacement therapy. So for the right person and most people, it really can be very beneficial.
Another question? Yeah, Jackie.
What about like, a multivitamin? Like, people take those anymore?
Yes, I'll start. I'm glad you asked that, Jackie, because I had someone else ask me about athletic greens. I know probably you've heard that, and now it's gonna pop up on your Instagram. I do think if you're not getting, I know Leah would agree with me, if you're not, eating a balanced diet, getting in multiple servings of fruits and vegetables every day, yes, you need a multivitamin or some type of athletic greens is not bad. It can be helpful for people that maybe like something like that or looking to get extra. Your body is going to excrete what it doesn't need. Okay, so if it needs it, it will take it in, and if it doesn't, it will excrete it. And I guess the whole point is, are you willing to pay for it? So, but I think if you're getting in more of a plant-based diet, less red meats, then you're hitting all the fronts, and you potentially might not need a multivitamin. Here's where you might want Brookes to run a panel on you to see where are you low and what are you deficient in, to see, hey, maybe you're not getting enough vitamin D from your foods. Maybe you need to supplement with some more vitamin D, E, or some other things.
Like, does it feel like a syndrome? Yeah. Is that like the gym part for free testing?
Yes, so I think from a multivitamin standpoint, it's to fill in gaps in your diet, and especially without lab testing to know where you are. I think Leah would be an excellent person to look at your diet too, because there are key nutrients that I'm a huge proponent of a largely plant-based diet, but it takes some planning. So it requires some education on, am I getting enough riboflavin, B12, omega-3. That's actually, there are some plant-based omega-3 supplements or foods that are from algae, which sounds kind of crazy, but that really are similar to like fish oil, which I love fish oil as well. But without knowing all the details of your diet and if there's any deficiencies in your labs, I think it's good. It can be beneficial if you feel like, I need to fill in some gaps in my diet, but they're not, supplements aren't regulated by the FDA. And so the New York Surgeon General, about 6 years ago, pulled thousands of supplements from Walgreens, Target, CVS, all these, maybe all these retail places that had supplements, and they found that over 90% of the supplements that they pulled from the shelves did not contain what they said they had. So that is where third-party testing comes into play. So if you're looking for a supplement, a good quality supplement has third-party testing, which means an outside source that's come in, assess the supplement, they look at the ingredients, they test it to make sure it basically has what it says it has on it. So you can see either on the supplement's website or on the bottle, there are seals. One is called NSF, one's called USP. Those are two that I really like to look for. Pure encapsulations, I would recommend that to everybody because I know that they have third-party testing. Thorn is another one that is a great option. It's the name of a brand, a supplement brand. Yeah, there are several. Yeah, but I think it's where, I don't think it's harmful, but if you're eating a well-balanced diet, it's probably not necessary. But it is worth, I think, looking at vitamin D levels and B12 and all of those things.
Good question. Yes, Elizabeth?
something that I learned from Brookes that I think is helpful is also taking, just because you're taking a supplement doesn't mean your body is absorbing it. I was taking vitamin D in the morning, but on an empty stomach, and so it was going straight through me doing nothing. And so I think it's important to, whatever supplements you're taking, to talk to your provider or someone to help determine, what do you take on a full stomach, what do you take on an empty stomach, that kind of.
That's exactly what I was gonna say, like if you had a deficiency, and this is not my area of expertise, but if you had a deficiency in something, the bioavailability of whatever supplement you're taking, also the absorption, and that's where healthcare provider comes in.
Kaylan, I have a question. So if I'm starting my routine or trying to figure it out, do I put my money in my face wash or my serum so what are the, these three things, spend it on first and then?
Sunscreen. So you want to make sure you have a sunscreen in your regimen. And I sometimes, it's probably bad of us to do this, but can gloss over it because you just expect everyone to have a sunscreen, but that's not always the case. You want everyone to have a sunscreen. And two things I'll say with that. You want to make sure you have a sunscreen that you will actually wear. So I always say every sunscreen works. They do work. They're all required also, just so you know, to have a label on the back, and they're all standardized labels. So you can quickly glance at the back of any sunscreen and you can see active ingredients. And there are two different forms of sunscreen. There's chemical and there's physical sunscreen. And if you're looking at a physical sunscreen, the active ingredients will say zinc or titanium. Anything else is going to be a chemical sunscreen. And then the zinc and titanium, the physical sunscreens, are going to have, they can have more of a white or chalky,
But they're getting so much more cosmetically elegant.
micronized, and a lot of times tinted so that you don't have the white, lifeguard nose when you're putting on the sunscreen. But some people can't tolerate a chemical-based sunscreen, which can sometimes be more cosmetically pleasing. Maybe they have melasma, which, any sunscreen is going to be good for that, but if we're getting down to the nuts and bolts of it, sometimes a chemical sunscreen can produce more heat and actually exacerbate melasma. So sunscreen. And then where should you spend your money? That's hard.
I would say probably places where we would say.
Retinoids.
Yeah, would just say maybe if we work in a skip on something most of the time, let's say if somebody's coming in, they're overwhelmed, all the things we're suggesting. But would be maybe a face wash. I think there's a lot of really good face washes out there that you can get from various retail places, and that may be a place I would say you probably could save some money. And then we would probably tell you to spend, maybe a little bit more about other active ingredients like interretinol.
Things that have active ingredients that are going to change your skin.
And have a lot of background science and research, we can help you navigate that. I would say that would be where I would, try to.
Retinol would be one.
Retinol would be an example of an active.
And there are other things. Yeah, and sunscreen too, I just want to feedback on that. So one of the things too you want to think about is even if it's a rainy day, where a lot of us work inside all day every day, there are other types of light that we need to be thinking about that create damage into our skin. And some of those are even penetrate deeper. So like our infrared light, physical light. So, there are different sunscreens that actually help us block all of those. So, those would be reasons, even our iPads and some of our blue light, those types of things are things that we want to be protected from on a regular daily basis.
So sunscreen, like HU,
Sunscreen, retinol, is the last thing.
oh, you're asking for three. Everybody wants to hear sunscreen, retinoid, vitamin C. That's what everyone wants to hear because those are the blurbs that are on social media. But it really is going to be, and with a room like this where you have multiple women who are like giving the bullet points.
Yeah.
it's hard, it's not fun to hear, oh, it's individualized, but it truly is. So it's hard to say, you know, everyone needs a retinoid, and then everybody goes home and puts on the retinoid, and then maybe your skin barrier is not ready for that. Or maybe you have severe acne or some acne problems, and a vitamin C might not be great for you right now. So it's hard to say, this is for everyone, but everyone needs a sunscreen.
Yeah.
And all of this can be individualized.
We'll take one more question. Does anybody have one more? I will say this, they carry the best skincare that I have ever used in my entire life. It's called Zoe or Zio, and it is, just go see them. That's all I can say, because it is the best product that you will ever put on your face.
All right, we've got one question in the back.
I know you mentioned like protein and like electrolytes, but what are some other like key like dieting points for like women's health and thyroid? Because there's so many like Whole30 or like keto that's like less fruit and veggies. So it's like what are some like key points like not to miss?
That's such a great question, and you know, Kaylan probably just said a little bit of it, where I'd say it's hard for me to answer that for the whole room, because you know, we've got 20 all the way, you know, multiple different ages and stages, and some people that maybe exercise in a different way than other people. So it's totally individualized. I'd first say you definitely need to sit down and take a look at what you are eating, and then to say, okay, well, what are your goals? Everybody has different goals in here. Many clients that I work with are trying to maintain weight but build their bone strength. So I'm working with them on a certain type of protein that I think they need to be getting, and a certain number of grams they're going to be getting. Well, if I have marathon runners, we're trying to build up different, you know, we're trying to make sure they're getting proper electrolytes and getting enough protein, but also good carbohydrates. And then other people at different points in their lives, they need the low carbohydrate diet. That tends to work for them, but at certain points in different people's life, I think we all need different things, and it's completely individualized. I'd say if you're looking to change your nutrition plan, one first and foremost, just need to be aware of what you're putting in your body. Leah probably would maybe hopefully say the same thing, but my first thing I'd say is that I love to look and see what's going in your body and the timing of it. A lot of people aren't eating until noon, and then they're overeating in the evening and eating late at night. And that's a problem. And that's a whole nother lesson on intermittent fasting. So I get a lot of questions about that too. So I definitely would just say definitely individualized, but first and foremost, if you have questions about your nutrition, write it down and send it to, you know, connect with myself or Leah or another registered dietitian or nutrition consultant who can look and see actually what you're doing and where you're deficient, because not only you might not be getting enough calories. I've seen that with a lot of women who are not getting enough calories, and macro tracking works for them, whereas other women, macro tracking does not work for them. So everyone is so different, and too, a lot of the time of, you know, where you are in life, premenopause, postmenopause, pre-children, you know, all different types. So thank you for that question. Yeah. Okay, guys, so we have got some amazing goodie bags for you guys. I just want you guys to take a look at it for just a minute. It's amazing. Brookes Vaughn, she donated some stuff in there as well. I think there's like percentage off of the massage. Kaylan put in there a eye mask. And also, so we're going to do some raffles. Lululemon donated a couple of items, and Brett Glenn, hey Brett, raise your hand. Hey guys, if y'all have never gone to Brett Glenn Floor Design, she is further down on Lumpkin, more across from the track. She has a beautiful floral studio. And she, you know, it's a Galentine's lunch, so we had to have a flower arrangement. So we're gonna do some raffles, and also Cindy, raise your hand. Cindy, the Skin Guru on Instagram, she also donated one of her special amazing facials. Lululemon Ashford Center donated some Latisse. We have a TransFit tape. Leah Wallace actually donated a nutrition session. So I'm excited. So you guys get ready. If you get picked, like jump up really big. Plus, I like that because you're doing squats. So. Okay, so the Lululemon one is going to be first. This is a really good one. Bonnie Turner. Awesome. Congrats, Bonnie. I'll do another Lululemon one. Jancy Brinson. Jancy Brinson. Our next one, Maggie Epps. Maggie a shout out because she was here at 5:30 this morning for our big one. So, and she's back. So a couple other people will be back too. Okay, this is from the Ashford Clinic, the Ashford Center right now. This one is Deborah Ragland. And Deborah thanks for this really great question about electrolytes. We can do a whole bunch of electrolytes too. Okay, guys, I'm gonna do another one. This one is the Ashford Center. Julie Barkley. Okay, from the Moore Clinic. Okay. So okay. Did Deborah win that one? Yeah. Awesome. Guys, please follow these friends on Instagram. That just helps them and support their business, and they're so nice to give away. And if you didn't check out LT Swim, she's got some sweet bathing suits over there. They're in the merchandise room back there. Okay, our next one, Stacy Stevens. Okay, and the next one. Penny Rupert. Oh, the flowers. Kelly Powell. Brett also made these arrangements as well for her birthday. So, okay, we got one more. It's a $20 merchandise credit out front for any of our stuff. Sarah Bennett. Guys, and all of our merchandise out front for you guys today is 15% off. So just see Elizabeth up front, and that's for literally everything. We do have a sale rack out there as well too. So, guys, thank you so much for coming. We'll stick around to have more gifts. Yes. Lisa, a happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Lisa. Happy birthday to you. Guys, thank you so much for coming. It wouldn't be right if I didn't leave us with a challenge, right? And so do for you guys, I challenge you, give you like a goal. Anyway, I just challenge you to take one thing that you learned today and act on it. You know, we say in here, we don't just do things. Like, I don't want to teach you, it's just I want you to go out and live it out. And so, you know, if you're having another question about any of these items in here, you know, act on it. You know, meet with one of these people, research it more, continue to ask questions. But we just always like to challenge you to, you know, take a step of action. Like, it's awesome that you're here, but let's leave here.